To get the most out of training, you need to follow a training program. In fact, every elite athlete that you see, from Premier League footballers to Olympic track and field athletes to world champion cyclists, all follow a training program to achieve peak performance. But building a training program can feel so overwhelming. Where do you start? How often should you train? What exercises do you pick? How do you know if a program is even working? Well, in this video, I'm gonna break down writing a training program into 4 simple steps. And if you can follow these 4 steps, then you can write a training program for any sport. By the end of the video, you'll have everything that you need to design a training program that delivers results for athletes at any level. Let's go and dive into it. Whether you're a personal trainer taking on your first athlete or a seasoned coach starting a new program, step 1 is always going to be the same. Start with a template. Starting from scratch with a blank page is overwhelming. The last thing you want to think about is having to spend time trying to format boxes and lines on Excel. Your time needs to be spent thinking about exercises, sets and reps, and what is going to get your athletes results. So start with a template like this one. I'll have a link in the description below so that way you can download it for free. This can really help you stay organized and look professional. So all you have to do is plug in the exercises. But even when you have a template, it can still seem overwhelming if you don't really have structure to the way that you program. So here's how I like to think about the structure of a training session. I break it down into 5 parts. I'll give you an overview now, and then we'll go into specifics later. Part 1 is the warm-up. I like to choose 5 minutes of general activity to get the heart rate up and the body temperature up, and then 5 to 10 minutes of specific work, like hip mobility or ankle mobility drills to improve range of motion that's needed for the workout. Part 2 is going to be plyometrics. You want to do these when you're fresh, since you need near maximal outputs for these to be effective. Part 3 is going to be resistance training. This is where your main lifts will be. Start with your big lifts like power cleans, squats, and bench, and then end this section with your accessory work like leg extensions, hanging leg raises, and triceps. Part 4 is going to be conditioning. Here is where you'll program aerobic or anaerobic conditioning work. That could be bike sprints, sled push, incline walk, and things like that. By this point in the workout, you'll probably be pretty tired, but that's okay because conditioning will still be effective. And then part 5 is going to be your cool down or recovery, and this may involve some static stretching. Now, although there can be some exceptions, this is the primary tried and true structure to programming a training session. Hopefully, understanding this basic structure of programming is already helping you feel a little bit more prepared. But you might be wondering, how do you actually choose what exercises to do to get your athletes the best results? We'll get there, but there are some other important decisions that you need to make first. So let's move on to step number 2, choosing a training split. Here's where you're going to set up the structure of your training week. You have a lot of options here. Some of the most popular training splits are 1, push-pull legs, or 2, the classic bro split. Monday chest and tris, Tuesday back and bis, Wednesday legs, Thursday shoulders, Friday arms. The truth is, these are terrible choices for athletes. They are upper body focused for the typical gym bro who really just cares about the aesthetics of their chest and arms. There are much better choices to make for athletes. Here are my recommendations. If you're only training 2 times per week, always train full body. It just doesn't make sense to try to have one huge lower body training session per week, for example. This would wreck your athlete's legs for days and make jumping and sport practice less effective. Instead, it's much better to spread the volume out between 2 sessions. But when you're training 3 times per week, you have some more options. That said, I still prefer full body training 90% of the time. You've probably heard about the training strategy that I use personally and with a lot of the athletes that I program for. It involves 3 full body training sessions per week. 1 power session, 1 strength session, and 1 hypertrophy session. This is called undulating periodization, and there's a lot of good research to support its effectiveness. I think this strategy works best for athletes training multiple qualities, for example, building size, strength, and speed. But you can also use undulating periodization and bias towards one specific quality that you're prioritizing. For example, I've programmed 2 power sessions and 1 strength session per week for athletes approaching their season. Maybe you want to train 2 hypertrophy sessions and 1 power session to build muscle while maintaining your athleticism and vertical jump. An undulating periodization approach with 3 full body training sessions per week can work well for a wide range of athletes. That said, I've also seen athletes do well with an upper, lower, and full body split. Lastly, if you do want to train 4 or more sessions per week, there are a couple things you can do. You can add a dedicated conditioning session, for example, an interval training session or a long zone 2 training session, which a lot of athletes like to do on the weekends. You could also add a mobility session, or an option that I've seen work well is 4 times per week with 2 times upper body and 2 times lower body. So overall, any of these training splits could work depending on your goals. Okay, hopefully by now you have an idea of what training split you want to use for the athlete that you're programming for. Now let's move on to step number 3, which is testing. This is where you'll decide on what performance tests to utilize to ensure that your athletes are making progress toward their goals. You have a lot of different options here. Explosive, powerful athletes often test vertical jump, 40-yard sprint, broad jump, pro agility test or the T test, med ball overhead throw, 1 rep max power clean or squat, and other tests like this. Endurance athletes may test 5K run time, or one that I prefer is the submaximal heart rate test. For example, testing your heart rate at 6.0, 8.0, and 10.0 on a treadmill. Cyclists may test FTP, and then one of my professional triathlete clients is actually testing lactate threshold in a lab. Overall, the test that you choose will depend on your individual goals and season, and also what you have access to. Hybrid athletes may choose a combination of both. For example, our hybrid athlete team typically works towards 1 primary strength goal and 1 primary endurance goal and tests that monthly for 3 months in a row. Whenever I have access to force plates and a velocity-based training device, I can test athletes every session and see weekly trends. But in other cases, when I'm programming remotely or don't have as much equipment, I have to keep it a little bit more simple. So it really depends on what you have access to, but the most important thing is to have something that you're measuring progress towards consistently. Okay, now let's move on to step 4, exercise selection. By this point, you may be surprised to find out that exercise selection is actually really easy. That's because you already know your training frequency and what you're testing. So let's say, for example, that you're training a basketball player 3 times per week and testing broad jump, med ball throw, and 1 rep max trap bar deadlift. If we think back to the structure of a training session from earlier, you're going to want to choose exercises that support those goals. So your Monday training session can start with 5-minute general warm-up on the bike, and then move into specific warm-up with a few mobility drills, a skip series, and some 10-yard sprints building up 50, 60, 70%, up to 100%. Then you would move from the warm-up into the plyometrics section. I like to split this into extensive, lower intensity plyometrics and intensive, more intense plyometrics. Extensive plyometrics typically involve more variability in landing forces. For example, small backwards hops, lateral hops, small bounds, split stance jumps, things like that. Then you can move into your intensive or your maximal jumps. This might include bounds for maximal distance, single leg hops, approach jumps, and depth jumps. If this is helpful, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Okay, after plyometrics, you can move into resistance training. This session might include 4 sets of 4 explosive trap bar deadlift at around 75% 1 rep max, 3 sets of 8 dumbbell split squat, 3 sets of 6 single leg hamstring sliders, and then 2 sets of 30 seconds of leg extension isometrics. From there, you might move into conditioning with sled push, 4 sets of 15 yards. And then lastly, in a cool down, maybe you're including adductor stretch and a pigeon stretch. You can use a similar approach with a strength focus on Wednesday with higher loads. And then to round out the program with a 3rd day, you can do a similar approach but with higher volume and a hypertrophy focus on Friday, maybe choosing fewer plyometrics and more resistance training exercises that are a bit more hypertrophy focused. Now this example was actually just how I wrote a program for one basketball player. You can obviously choose a training split, exercises and sets and reps that work best for your individual athlete that you're working with. That said, while there may be some differences between athletes, remember that a lot of different athletes share the same goal: to be more explosive, powerful, and fast. Once you have a solid structure to your training, it'll look very similar between different athletes. So if you can write a solid training program for one athlete, then you have the knowledge and the tools to write a program for any athlete. So to recap, we started with a template and a training session structure: warm-up, plyometrics, resistance training, conditioning, and then cool down. And then we chose a training split: After that, we chose tests based on the athlete's goals, and then finally we programmed exercises to move the athlete toward those goals. If you think about your athlete's individual goals and you use these steps, you can write an effective program for any athlete that comes to you. Okay, if you'd like more practice writing programs for clients and athletes step by step, then you can check out our full course, Program Design 101. Program Design 101 teaches you exactly how to write great programs for your clients and athletes, step by step. In this course, I break down the research and provide you with full example programs. Then we guide you step by step to writing your own programs for your athletes. By the end of the course, you'll have 5 programs that you can immediately use with your athletes. Program Design 101 also provides 10 NSCA continuing education hours toward maintaining your CSCS certification. If that sounds like it would be helpful for you, then I invite you to click the link in the description below and join the hundreds of students who have learned our system for writing great programs. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.